Okay, let's stand for the pledge. Is Ari, have you sent us live?
We're live.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people.
Okay, so a couple of things to add to the agenda this evening. We have the phase 1 archaeological monitoring proposal, and then item number 4, sampling for COVID at the sewer plant, and that was it. I'd like to amend the agenda, or motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone want to make any announcements?
Should we make like a snow parking announcement?
Oh, do it.
I know I meant to write some notes about it. Does someone else want to?
Yeah, I can do it. So
Cool.
the village's rule is that you can't park on the street during snowstorms, and it's really important because it creates safety issues for our plow trucks. It's just a whole lot more efficient, and we want to get our guys done with that task as soon as possible. So it's important that if you have a vehicle, you got to find a off-street parking spot. And one thing that the village has done is that we've come up with a system where you can put your car, as long as it's orderly parked, down at the entrance to the Gardens for Nutrition, or the also known as the sewer treatment plant area, off of Huguenot Street. So please find a spot that's not on the street for your car during the snowstorms.
Should we also mention the water conservation?
Yeah, good reminder. The DEP contacted us this week because they wanted to relay to the community that we need folks to be as conservative as possible with their use of drinking water up until Christmas Eve. That's December 24th. And they're, have been working on repairing the Catskill Aqueduct at different periods over the last couple of years. But this week, they're involved in an incredibly complicated project that involves divers going down 300 feet to do some repair work at some lower sections within the Catskill Aqueduct. So thanks for reminding me to relay to the community, try to use as little water as possible, maybe skip a shower or two, wait on laundry, that will help a bit.
I will skip a lot of showers in solidarity.
Happy to skip showers.
So yeah, let's also share like a quick COVID-19 update. So on my favorite end of things, on tenant landlord issues, I do want to note that I guess last week, well, they keep extending it, but the eviction moratorium has been extended once again to mid-January, and I expect to see it continue to be extended every 2 weeks from the governor's office. Of course, I guess the stat is about 74% of cases, are from living room spread. So just a reminder that, in this snowstorm tomorrow and whatever holidays you might celebrate, if you celebrate any, or anything you do, don't risk it. The people that, you are good friends with could still, be infected and not know it, or vice versa. And that's what we're seeing basically right now with all the cases. So please just, stay home, read a book, and stay safe. And did I miss anything?
Just the thank you to all the healthcare, essential, emergency, first responder, all the workers that make it possible for those of us to stay home, so that we can stay home, so they keep the nuts and bolts of our communities together.
Yeah, just actually, I do have one more note that I did want to say. I forgot. With the snow, don't drive in the snow, because if you create more emergencies during a pandemic, that's really bad for everyone. Speaking of our first line workers, so just don't go anywhere tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, avoid risk behaviors that might land you in a hospital, because we need to take the pressure off our healthcare system.
Okay, without any other announcements, I'm going to move on to the public hearing that continues to be open. This is regarding the short-term rental law that we've proposed. And we've been discussing a change which would have it so if you're a permanent resident, you could definitely use a primary residence as a short-term rental housing option. Because we originally, when we were considering this law, we were thinking of trying to doing something a little bit creative, where eliminating for 3 months per year. But I think this will be easier to enforce and easier for everyone to understand. So basically, if it's your permanent residence, you can you can rent it as a short-term rental, provided you definitely occupy that place, and that can be a 12-month a year short-term rental as long as you live there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
I'm definitely compelled by the arguments to move in this direction. I think that both the enforcement piece, as well as just being a little more flexible with locals. And, if in a year or so the village board sees that you want to be more restrictive, you can pick this up and see if maybe you want to be more restrictive in this way. So I feel like it's a good response to the feedback that we got, because I want, everyone should know that we've been the big nuance that we've been trying to, with clarity, articulate in this law is that we are cool with and want locals who are in their homes, and use this as a tool to stay in their homes, and they have long-term commitment to the community and connection to the community. We want this in your toolkit, your affordability toolkit. On the other hand, for folks that are buying up properties on the internet from faraway places and have no connection and no real concern for impacts on what happened in these places, and the very well documented inflationary effect that those types of investments in communities create. We really have tried to parse out these two different types of uses of short-term rentals. The feedback thus far has been great, and I like this new idea that you've presented, Tim, and I would suggest still that we keep the public hearing open.
I'm also in favor of continuing to keep the public hearing open. Maybe we can do another letter to the newspaper or another social media post, just to help get the word out.
I think that's a good idea. Thanks.
Okay, so the public hearing continues to be open. I'd like to motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to walk through item number 1 on their business agenda? Where are we, Ariana, in terms of the village elections? Was Will Frank able to get us any useful information on the possibility of changing the election date, or is that on us?
Well, we got some resolutions from the village of Ellenville, and he is looking at it right now. I wanted to just kind of tailor that to be our resolution, but from what he said, it sounded like he needed to do some more with it. So we don't have anything from him yet, though.
Okay. Well, I can share that the concept that we're looking at, and this would not happen in May of 2023, but the idea would be to change village elections so they take place in November, at the same time that we have general elections. And we think that that would improve voter participation and make voting less complicated, a little bit easier. And would also save us some money because the county would pick up our portion of that expense, and it would be less expense to have one election as opposed to the village paying for their own unique election in May. And then I think there's some other advantages monetarily, and also just to encourage voter participation, because if we're piggybacking on November election season, then you can also offer early voting, which we would not be able to do if we're hosting our own elections in May.
Also, on the voter participation end of things, it just is so much easier to vote when it's all at once, right? So I think it would be probably the best move we can do to address that ongoing concern in our community about why is voter participation in village elections so minimal compared to the interest in being engaged our active and aware community is.
Yeah, so I think this is an exciting improvement that we would be able to have elections in November.
So we would have on the ballot this coming May, moving of the date, and then the next election, people would get elected for a little bit longer because of the delay.
Yeah, I guess the way it works, and this is what we're hoping to get on a next village board agenda, is essentially a permissive referendum where we're basically asking the county to take over our elections, and then the county would have to agree to do that. So that's step one. And then step two is we would call for a mandatory referendum. Maybe I just used the wrong word, but basically a referendum that would take place in May of 2021, where our voters would get a say, and they could either vote for or against changing the election day to November. And then the first actual village election that would take place in a November series would be November of 2023. Okay, if there's nothing on that, then why don't we continue with the phase one archaeological monitoring proposal. Anyone on a call?
Oh yeah, I think you're breaking up.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can now.
Okay, so it's a phase one monitoring proposal that costs $1,200, and this would have Joe Diamond take on this work. So I motion that we have Mr. Diamond perform the monitoring proposal.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Who's seconded?
Alex.
No, it's KT.
It's KT. Sorry.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
And then item number 4 that I added at the table was we had some inquiries. Folks in the community were interested in whether we could test the wastewater at the sewer plant to get a sense of how much COVID is in our community. I think the news has reported on this. So I had our plant operator research this possibility, and in Tennessee, you can go ahead and have this work done. We eyeballed that it would be $500 per test, and the monitoring firm in Tennessee said, to get a sense of where you stand in terms of COVID levels, you'd have to do 2 tests for 5 weeks. So that would cost a total of $5,000. I think it would be very interesting to collect this data. I don't know that it would be worth $5,000. Does anyone have any additional thoughts?
Yeah.
I agree. I'm so interested analytically, but I don't think I can defend, spending that much money for something that isn't going to really. We don't have money for stuff like that right now. I wish we did.
Also-
I mean, I guess the closest argument I could try to make is that if we could show, trajectories, we could either be saying, with a stronger voice, but we have cases, we have other data that already points to that. So I can't even, I'm trying to make an argument and I'm coming up empty. It would have to be a much lower dollar amount. I mean, they did it at my son's college and it works really awesome in settings where you have controlled residences and you can more precisely do that collection at the source, like think of a dorm and just getting it at each of those points, and it works really great in those types of residential settings right now. They caught cases at his college that way. But we'd just be getting it down at the treatment plant. So it would just be like all of us. There'd be no more specific location data to sort of point in, and this is on all of us right now, as we said at the top. So
The one thing about these tests is it's, if you don't know you have COVID, it's a way of finding out if you have COVID, but we know we have COVID in New Paltz, so I don't see the point. I don't think it necessarily measures how much COVID you have.
No, from the way it was explained to me, Bill, is that it would give you a sense of whether COVID is getting worse or better in your community. So, that you could see how that would be useful or interesting, probably more interesting than useful. But it probably is just helping identify a trend. That's maybe all it can do.
all right, I just did think of something. I mean, the numbers lag like 10 days to 2 weeks, and this would not lag, right? So it would be quicker. I still don't think we have $5,000 to do it, but
It's not, but it's not as quick as you would think too. The way it was explained to me, because I went through in some detail with our plant operator. So let's say you collect a sample today, then you have to get it down to Tennessee. That's at least a day. And then it takes them 3 days, and we're assuming it's 3 business days to get results. So you're talking nearly a week before you get, so it's not as quick as maybe we would assume. So, all right. Well, I just thought it was interesting to relay to the board and the community that we were looking at this. I've heard about it before. It seems like an interesting way to, get a sense of how, what's going on community wide. So.
yeah, we had several people reach out to us and ask if this was a possibility here. So thank you for following up and getting the detail on that, Tim.
Sure. Okay, so the next resolution we have is from 2020, reaffirming our commitment to the Paris Treaty. Someone want to second that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I motion that we move bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Does the planning board liaison want to share anything?
Sure, we met last night. It was almost a repeat of the previous meeting we had. Discussion of the Millbrook, 2 Millbrook properties being developed by Floyd Niffen.
Okay.
And then also a discussion about the lot line revision with Stewart's. So we should have by January 19th. There were a couple of things missing from the application that the planning board wanted to see.
Is this for the Oliver House?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
So what they wanted to see, actually the attorney, Rick Gold, wanted to see were utilities and water was serving the house and I wasn't on the plot.
I see.
Okay. By January 19th, we should have a sealed deal.
Excellent. That's exciting. All right. Anyone
Oh,
from the
one other
ZB?
thing,
Oh, go ahead. Oh,
too.
sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
It came up in the ZBA meeting in terms of how public is being noticed for these meetings to attend, to voice their opinions. And there was concern voiced in this meeting that the public was unaware that public hearing was going on for the Millbrook property developments there. And I know we've discussed it briefly, but perhaps we need to, at the beginning of the year, talk about how we're serving notice.
Okay.
Are people clear on though, like who doesn't get notice? Because sometimes that's part of the answer as well. I mean, I totally am open to a discussion of this, but in my experience, sometimes folks think that they should have been on the list when necessarily they're not in the proximity that would have been notified. So maybe part of the conversation is expanding that, just throwing that out there.
Sure, and also one planning board member did mention when you have YouTube viewers to maybe pause a bit so that people have an opportunity to ask a question because of the lag time between what's happening and what's being broadcast on YouTube. I thought that was
That's a good idea.
Yeah, take a few extra seconds and not rush it through.
I continue to feel like just in general how we're engaging in this Zoom land needs considerable improvement, and I haven't come up with good ideas, but I do think we could do better.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about it next year.
All right. Anything from the ZBA? Did the ZBA meet this week?
No, we did not.
Okay. I don't think there's any new information on that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So I think that's it with the regular portion of our meeting. We can adjourn, or we can just relay that we're not going to come out and take any actions, but we did want to go into exec session while the meeting was still technically open. So the meeting will technically remain open, but Ariana, can you shut down the public portion of this meeting so just the board members can go into exec session? So I motion we go into the executive session for the purposes of discussing matters related to a particular person or corporation.
Second.
Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
we're in exec session. Are we good to go now, Ariana?
Now, and
Are we good to go then?
Yep, you're